In the far reaches of the galaxy, the Dominion stood as a symbol of unparalleled martial prowess. For centuries, this alien faction had dominated countless battlefields, carving out an empire through sheer military might and strategic brilliance. Their warriors were raised from birth to embody the perfect soldiers, disciplined, relentless, and ruthlessly efficient. Every skirmish, every campaign had been a testament to their superiority in combat. Their enemies learned quickly. The Dominion was to face annihilation. The Dominion's confidence was absolute. Their culture glorified war and strength. Their commanders were revered as near mythical figures, celebrated for their victories and tactical genius. This unshakable belief in their invincibility shaped every aspect of their society. They looked down on other species, especially the newly encountered humans who were perceived as primitive, ill-equipped for the deadly dance of galactic warfare. Humans had only recently emerged from their isolated star system, pushing beyond their solar boundaries with curiosity and determination. Their technology was respectable, but not groundbreaking by Dominion standards. More importantly, their untested reputation in large-scale combat led the Dominion to dismiss them as inconsequential. To the Dominion, humans were like children playing with toys in a war zone, incapable of serious threat or challenge. The story opens on the disputed planet of Kaelin Prime, a rugged world scarred by past conflicts and rich in strategic value. The Galactic Council had assigned both humans and Dominion forces as peacekeepers, an uneasy truce meant to prevent further bloodshed. But tensions simmered beneath the surface. The Dominion saw the humans' presence as an affront, a challenge, to their dominance in this sector of space. Dominion warships loomed overhead, their hulls gleaming coldly against the planet's stormy skies. On the ground, Dominion soldiers drilled relentlessly, their formations precise and intimidating. The Dominion High Command convened in their command fortress, confident that any resistance from the humans would be swiftly crushed. Their war plans relied on overwhelming force, advanced weaponry, and decades of battlefield experience. Meanwhile, the humans arrived with a mix of cautious optimism and hardened resolve. Unlike the Dominion's arrogance, human commanders understood the stakes. They were outsiders in a complex galaxy, judged by others as underdogs. Yet beneath their measured exterior was a fierce determination born from a history of surviving, harsh worlds, and internal struggles. They had learned to adapt, innovate, and fight with everything they had. As the Dominion prepared their forces for what they believed would be a show of dominance, the humans established defensive positions, their tactics unconventional and unpredictable. They seemed unafraid of the Dominion's reputation. This confidence puzzled the Dominion, who assumed fear and submission would be the natural reaction. The initial exchanges were minor, patrols clashing, reconnaissance missions encountering resistance. But even these small engagements hinted at something the Dominion hadn't accounted for. The humans fought back with a tenacity and ingenuity that defied the Dominion's expectations. Their soldiers pushed through brutal terrain, improvised weapons when necessary, and adapted quickly to Dominion tactics. At the heart of this part is the theme of pride and underestimation. The Dominion's self-assuredness blinds them to the true capabilities of their human adversaries. They see humans as weak, but this misjudgment sets the stage for a reckoning. The Dominion's greatest strength, their confidence in combat mastery, becomes their vulnerability. The narrative ends this part on the precipice of open conflict. Both sides brace for the inevitable storm, but only one side truly understands what the coming battles will demand. The Dominion still believe victory is assured. The humans, quietly resolute, are ready to prove them wrong. The long-anticipated confrontation between the Dominion and humans erupted on the harsh surface of Kaelin Prime. The planet's rugged terrain, a maze of rocky outcrops, dense forests, and treacherous valleys, set the stage for a conflict unlike any the Dominion had previously faced. Confident in their superiority, the Dominion forces advanced with precision, expecting a swift and decisive victory over what they still considered an insignificant foe. The first clashes were brutal, but brief. Dominion soldiers, equipped with advanced armor and weapons refined over centuries of war, moved confidently through the battlefield. Their formations were textbook perfect, their strategies honed by countless victorious campaigns. Yet as they engaged the humans, the Dominion were met with something unexpected, a fierce resistance fueled not by technology, but by something far more difficult to predict. Humans fought with an intensity and creativity that stunned the Dominion. Their tactics broke every conventional rule. Instead of standing in rigid lines, human units spread out, using the terrain to their advantage. Ambushes came from unexpected angles, and their soldiers seemed to anticipate Dominion maneuvers before they happened. They employed guerrilla warfare techniques combining rapid close-quarters combat with hit-and-run strikes. This style was alien and confounding to the Dominion commanders. Despite the Dominion's superior firepower, their troops began to suffer significant casualties. Human soldiers endured wounds that would have forced other species to retreat, pushing forward with sheer willpower. The Dominion noted that humans did not just fight with weapons, they fought with every fiber of their being, driven by an unyielding resolve and fierce loyalty to one another. It was as if pain and injury only sharpened their focus rather than diminishing their effectiveness. One early battle became a defining moment for the Dominion. A squad of elite Dominion warriors, veterans of countless wars, was sent to crush a human outpost known for its strategic location. The Dominion expected a quick and humiliating victory, but what they encountered was a well-prepared human force that used unconventional traps and improvised defenses crafted from the planet's natural resources. The Dominion squad found themselves outmaneuvered and pinned down, suffering heavy losses before they finally withdrew. The shock rippled through Dominion ranks. How could these humans, whom they had dismissed as primitive, stand toe-to-toe with their best fighters? Dominion officers debated heatedly in command centers, struggling to revise their strategies against an enemy who seemed to learn and adapt in real time. For the first time, doubt crept into their minds. Yet, despite these setbacks, the Dominion High Command refused to concede weakness. They doubled down on their belief in their own superiority, blaming tactical errors and underestimating the humans' unconventional style. Their arrogance prevented them from fully appreciating the humans' true strength, resilience and adaptability, born from surviving harsh, death-world environments back on Earth. Human commanders recognized the Dominion's overconfidence and exploited it. They deliberately used unpredictability as a weapon, frequently changing their tactics and refusing to engage in prolonged battles where Dominion technology could dominate. Instead, they targeted supply lines, communication hubs, and critical command posts with lightning raids that sowed confusion and eroded Dominion morale. By the end of the first major engagements, it was clear that this conflict would not be the easy victory the Dominion anticipated. Their soldiers had bled for the first time against an enemy who refused to break. The Dominion's pride was wounded as deeply as their bodies. Yet, their leaders still masked their growing anxiety with bluster and determination, unwilling to admit that they were facing an adversary unlike any before. This part underscores a crucial turning point. The Dominion's illusion of mastery begins to crack, while humans reveal that their strength lies not just in technology or training, but in indomitable spirit and tactical ingenuity. The stage is set for a war that will challenge everything the Dominion thought they knew about combat. The early battles on Kalen Prime shook the Dominion to its core. The initial arrogance that had fueled their confidence was now replaced by a creeping unease. The myth of their invincibility, the foundation of their military culture, was beginning to fracture. For centuries, the Dominion had crushed every opponent with overwhelming force and superior tactics. Now faced with the human fighter's relentless spirit and unconventional methods, that proud belief was being challenged in ways no one had anticipated. Determined to regain control of the narrative, the Dominion leadership launched a massive, coordinated assault designed to annihilate the human resistance once and for all. This was to be the decisive battle that would restore the Dominion's reputation and crush the outsiders who dared to defy them. Entire fleets bombarded the planet from orbit, while ground forces advanced in overwhelming numbers. But the humans were ready. Rather than meet the Dominion in direct, predictable combat, they employed guerrilla warfare tactics honed through generations of survival on hostile worlds. They used the planet's terrain to their advantage, slipping through narrow canyons, disappearing into dense forests, and setting traps that preyed on Dominion hubris. Their soldiers were experts in close-quarters combat, turning the Dominion's reliance on ranged firepower against them in brutal skirmishes. The humans fought with a ferocity born not of simple aggression, but of deep-rooted survival instinct and unyielding loyalty to their comrades. Stories began to circulate among the Dominion troops about human warriors who refused to yield even after being severely wounded. Soldiers who would drag themselves across the battlefield to keep fighting. These tales, initially dismissed as propaganda, soon became undeniable facts. One particularly brutal engagement became a symbol of this new reality. A Dominion assault force, confident in their technological and numerical superiority, charged into what they believed was a weakening human encampment. Instead, they walked into a carefully orchestrated trap. Mines hidden beneath the forest floor detonated, cutting off their advance while human fighters attacked from concealed positions with lethal precision. The Dominion's elite troops were decimated, and survivors retreated in disarray. The impact was devastating. For the first time, Dominion commanders faced a battlefield where their advanced tactics and weapons failed to guarantee victory. Their soldiers' morale faltered as the myth of invincibility shattered. The once assured Dominion generals struggled to formulate effective responses to the humans' unpredictable methods. Meanwhile, the humans gained confidence from their success. Their commanders began pushing harder, recognizing that their greatest weapon was their ability to adapt and endure. Unlike the Dominion, who relied on rigid doctrine and overwhelming firepower, humans thrived on innovation and improvisation. This flexibility allowed them to seize small advantages and turn them into significant victories. Psychological warfare also played a growing role. The Dominion soldiers were unnerved by the humans' refusal to back down, their resilience in the face of injury, and their unorthodox fighting style. Rumors of human soldiers who seemed almost supernaturally tough spread rapidly, creating fear and uncertainty within Dominion ranks. This part of the story highlights the crumbling of the Dominion's long-held beliefs and the rise of human strength as more than just physical power. It is mental toughness, creativity, and an unbreakable will to survive. The humans, once underestimated, now stand as a formidable force capable of rewriting the rules of galactic combat. As the dust settles on this chapter of the conflict, both sides understand that the war ahead will be unlike any before. The Dominion must face the harsh truth. They no longer hold the unquestioned mantle of supreme warriors. And the humans? They are just getting started. With their initial arrogance shattered and the myth of their invincibility broken, the Dominion found themselves scrambling to adjust to an enemy unlike any they had faced before. The humans' ability to adapt, innovate, and endure was unsettling. The Dominion commanders began to realize that sheer numbers and superior technology were no longer enough to guarantee victory. The humans possessed an edge that transcended equipment and traditional tactics, an edge rooted in their unpredictable nature and relentless spirit. Human leaders recognized the moment. They understood that the Dominion's rigidity was a weakness waiting to be exploited. While the Dominion clung to strict hierarchies and established doctrines, humans thrived on flexibility and unconventional thinking. Commanders who once followed protocol now encouraged experimentation and risk-taking. They encouraged their troops to improvise, innovate on the fly, and strike where the enemy least expected. This shift was not just tactical but cultural. Human soldiers came from diverse backgrounds and experiences, some hardened by survival on harsh, unforgiving death worlds, others shaped by conflicts that demanded creative solutions rather than brute force. This diversity created a fertile ground for new strategies that caught the Dominion off guard repeatedly. One of the key innovations was the use of modified civilian technology adapted for warfare. Humans jury-rigged tools and machinery found on Kalan Prime into effective weapons and surveillance devices. Drones repurposed from agricultural models scouted enemy positions stealthily. Explosives crafted from mining charges were used to devastating effect in ambushes. This blend of ingenuity and resourcefulness magnified the humans' battlefield impact far beyond what the Dominion had anticipated. The Dominion's rigid command structure also began to fracture under pressure. Their officers, trained to expect obedience and predictable behavior, struggled to react to humans who broke formation, changed tactics mid-battle, or used psychological warfare. The Dominion soldiers, conditioned to fear and respect authority, were often caught off guard by human squads operating autonomously with fluid communication and rapid decision-making. Stories spread among Dominion ranks of individual human warriors who seemed unstoppable. One such figure was Lieutenant Cale Draven, a human soldier whose exploits became legendary. Cale was known for leading small teams deep behind enemy lines, disabling Dominion supply routes, and returning with minimal casualties. His ability to read the battlefield and anticipate Dominion moves was uncanny, embodying the humans' adaptive edge. Morale within Dominion forces began to erode as the humans' successes piled up. The Dominion found themselves not just fighting a physical enemy but battling uncertainty and fear. They faced an adversary who refused to be boxed into expectations or defeated by sheer firepower alone. The humans' psychological resilience unsettled even the most battle-hardened Dominion veterans. In response, the Dominion ramped up propaganda efforts, painting humans as unpredictable savages rather than worthy foes, an attempt to justify their earlier underestimation and rally their troops. But the truth was evident on the battlefield. Humans had rewritten the rules of engagement. Meanwhile, human forces capitalized on their momentum. They launched targeted strikes at Dominion command centers and communication arrays, disrupting coordination and amplifying chaos. Their guerrilla tactics evolved into a sophisticated campaign of attrition, wearing down Dominion forces one skirmish at a time. By the end of this phase, the balance of power had shifted. The Dominion was no longer the unchallenged giant. They were a vulnerable empire facing a relentless and clever foe. The humans had proven that mastery of combat required more than strength and technology. It demanded adaptability, innovation, and a spirit that refused to break. This part deepens the theme of outsiders surprising the established order. The humans' edge lies not in conventional superiority, but in their unpredictable creativity and indomitable will, setting the stage for an escalating conflict that will test the Dominion's limits and humanity's true potential. The conflict on Kalan Prime had escalated beyond all expectations. The Dominion, once convinced of their unstoppable dominance, now faced a resilient and cunning enemy whose unconventional tactics were beginning to shift the balance of power. After months of grueling warfare, the humans were no longer just surviving. They were starting to seize the initiative. The turning point came during a critical battle for control over the planet's most valuable resource depot. The Dominion had fortified the area heavily, confident it was impregnable. This depot supplied their forward operating bases with weapons, fuel, and critical supplies. Losing it would cripple their war effort in the region. Human commanders meticulously planned a daring assault, combining intelligence gathered from reconnaissance drones and frontline scouts with new tactics forged through experience. Unlike the rigid Dominion approach, human strategy was dynamic. They coordinated multi-pronged attacks, blending hit-and-run raids with sabotage and feints designed to confuse and overwhelm the Dominion defenders. The assault began with a small elite team infiltrating the perimeter under the cover of darkness, disabling sensors and communication relays. Without the Dominion's ability to coordinate reinforcements, their defenses quickly began to unravel. Meanwhile, human artillery units, using modified mining equipment, bombarded the position from hidden vantage points, forcing Dominion troops into vulnerable positions. On the ground, fierce close-quarters combat erupted. Human soldiers used intimate knowledge of the terrain to launch swift ambushes and break the Dominion's lines. They fought not just with weapons but with ingenuity, setting traps and employing improvised explosives. The Dominion's technological advantages were blunted by the humans' resourcefulness and sheer determination. The battle lasted for days, with heavy losses on both sides. But the outcome was clear. The humans captured the depot, delivering a significant blow to the Dominion's operational capabilities. This victory was more than strategic, it was symbolic. It shattered the aura of Dominion invincibility and boosted human morale across the warfront. This success galvanized the humans to press their advantage. Emboldened, they expanded their operations, disrupting supply lines and attacking Dominion outposts with increasing frequency and precision. The once static front lines gave way to fluid, unpredictable warfare that exhausted Dominion forces and commanders alike. Within Dominion ranks, panic and frustration spread. Their leaders scrambled to respond, often with rigid countermeasures that only played into human strengths. Attempts to force decisive battles with overwhelming force repeatedly failed, as humans slipped away, regrouped, and struck again elsewhere. The psychological impact on the Dominion was profound. Soldiers who had once marched with unshakable confidence now questioned their leadership and their cause. The humans' tenacity and unwillingness to surrender had broken through the Dominion's mental armor as effectively as their physical defenses. For the humans, the turning tide was a validation of their identity and capabilities. They had fought not just with weapons but with heart and mind, overcoming a foe who had dismissed them outright. Their victories were a testament to adaptability, innovation, and unity in the face of overwhelming odds. Part 5 underscores a crucial evolution. The humans move from defensive survival to offensive momentum. It marks the beginning of the Dominion's decline on Kaelin Prime, and hints at the larger consequences for the galaxy's balance of power. The battle was no longer about proving they could survive. It was about proving they could win. As the story advances toward its climax, both sides prepare for what will be the final decisive confrontations. The Dominion, desperate to reclaim their honor, ready their last reserves. The humans, driven by an unyielding spirit, stand poised to reshape the destiny of the region, and perhaps the galaxy itself. The final phase of the conflict on Kaelin Prime marked not only the end of a brutal war, but the beginning of a profound transformation for both the Dominion and humanity. After months of relentless fighting, the Dominion's forces, battered and demoralized, faced the full force of a human army that had evolved from desperate survivors into confident victors. In this decisive chapter, the Dominion launched a last-ditch effort to reclaim their lost territories and restore their shattered honor. Massive fleets bombarded the planet, and elite Dominion forces were sent on a full-scale invasion to crush the humans once and for all. It was a battle meant to be the Dominion's final statement of power, but it would prove to be their undoing. The humans, having learned from every engagement, had prepared for this ultimate confrontation with meticulous strategy and unshakable resolve. Unlike the Dominion's reliance on brute force and predictable tactics, human commanders employed adaptive maneuvers that kept their enemy off balance. They used guerrilla strikes to weaken supply chains, ambushes to disrupt reinforcements, and psychological warfare to erode morale. The battlefield was a chaotic mosaic of skirmishes, ambushes, and pitched fights. Human soldiers fought fiercely, defending their hard-won positions with a combination of raw courage and cunning. The determination that had carried them through hardship now fueled their final stand. Wounded soldiers refused to retreat, and those fresh to the fight were inspired by the legends of their predecessors. As the conflict wore on, it became clear that the Dominion's forces were fracturing. Command and control systems failed under the strain of constant disruption. Troops grew weary, their belief in invincibility shattered beyond repair. The humans' tenacity and innovation had rewritten the rules of engagement. In the war's aftermath, the Dominion was forced to acknowledge a new reality. Humanity was not a foe to be underestimated or crushed with ease. The myth of their military dominance had been broken by a species whose strength lay in adaptability, resilience, and an indomitable will to survive. The legacy of the outsiders was clear. They had changed the face of galactic warfare forever. Beyond the battlefield, the repercussions echoed through the political and cultural spheres of the galaxy. Other species, long loyal to or fearful of the Dominion, began to reconsider their alliances. Humanity's victory was a beacon of hope and a warning. No empire was invincible. For humans, the war forged a new identity, one grounded not just in survival, but in leadership and innovation. The scars of combat became symbols of pride, proof that they could stand against the greatest powers in the galaxy. The story of how outsiders made the mighty bleed spread far and wide, inspiring future generations. This final part ties together the themes of the entire story: the shattering of arrogance, the triumph of spirit, and the profound impact of those once dismissed. It emphasizes that true mastery of combat is not about weapons or technology alone, but about the heart, mind, and unyielding will to overcome. As the dust settled, the galaxy stood changed forever. The outsiders had bled the mighty, and in doing so carved their own legacy as warriors, innovators, and survivors. The Dominion's era of unquestioned supremacy was over, and humanity's rise had only just begun.